Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another round of sound. This is the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. I'm Bob Pompeani. We have a big show for you tonight. We have a lot of things to get into, a lot of Steelers stuff, NFL stuff, and even the Pirates at the trade deadline. And here is your panel as we talk to them about these topics. We have Will Graves from the Associated Press, Mark Kaboly from The Athletic, Colin Dunlap, host of the Fan Morning Show on 93.7 The Fan. So, the big news, there was a lot of big news this week. Most of it, Will, was about Deontay Johnson and the fact that he's having a hold-in, which follows the path of T.J. Watt, Minka Fitzpatrick. We saw tonight there's another big contract because Deebo Samuel got paid. Where does this go from here? And does it actually carry into the regular season if he doesn't get a deal?
I don't think it's going to carry into the regular season, but I mean, I think, you know, all week, me, Kaboly, everybody else up there, we're talking about, like, we're drawing this T.J. comparison. He's not T.J. Watt. I mean, he's not. And to me, the thing that's jarring about this for him is, like, you got, you know, 2 new quarterbacks on the roster. You're going to be the first. You're going to be a starter whenever you got to be on the field. To me, that's a problem. I don't know if he's helping his case by taking this tack, and I don't think the Steelers look at the other contracts and think, well, Deebo Samuel got paid, and now we get it. That sets the market. The market's set. Either if they thought he was worth the money, they already would have paid him, in my opinion.
Absolutely. The money's on the table, and it's in his hands right now, Deontay Johnson, if he wants to accept it or not. And as long as DK Metcalf and Deebo Samuel keep getting this money, he's not going to get it. What I would like to see from Deontay Johnson, Bob, is just come out and tell us your plans. Maybe if you sit out training camp and say, hey, I'll be back for those 8 to 10 practices before the season. I know I have no leverage, or whatnot, because he's not going to get the deal that he wants right now, but he has to play because he has no leverage. He has to play because if he sits out a year
left on a contract.
Well, yes, he has to play. He needs to come out and really say more than we'll see, I don't know, and that thing. In my opinion, it won't happen, though.
I don't begrudge anybody trying to get theirs. I mean, we saw what happened to Teddy Bridgewater. We saw people get hurt in non-contact drills. And people comparing it to T.J. Watt or people comparing it to Minka Fitzpatrick, each case is individual. No, he's charged with the duty of trying to maximize his payday and also minimize his risk. I can't fault the guy. I can't fault the guy at all. I'm having a hard time doing that, especially because.
Where does he go? The risk will come.
Especially because
playing with no practice, he goes into week 1, he could hurt himself.
Here's the thing, and here's what put me over the top. Cam Hayward came out just the other day and said, "There's no one here that has anything, no ill will towards the guy."
Right.
So if the players don't care, why do the fans care? Why do the media care? If the people in his own locker room say he's doing the right thing, then why do the fans and the media care so much?
Last year, you know, Cam might be, we love Cam. Cam might be putting us on a little bit. Let's remember last year. Remember when that fight between Claypool and Minka? And what Claypool yelled at TJ, why don't you practice sometime? This was like during in the run-up to that thing that we weren't allowed to talk about, right? So I think the offense, I think Matt Canada definitely cares. I think Mike Sullivan definitely cares. I think the quarterbacks care.
All of them.
But, you know, the thing is, look, they drafted 2 receivers. He's also replaceable. So, for me, he should get on the field because I think that they're going to be – the Steelers season is not going to make or break whether Deontay Johnson has 110 catches or not.
Let's think for a second here. I mean, in Deontay Johnson's – what he's thinking right now. You brought in Mitch Trubisky, you have Mason Rudolph, you got Kenny Pickett. If he waits another season, maybe that number of catches don't go up. Maybe he's losing money by not getting that contract done now. That could play in a part of it, too. Say, these quarterbacks aren't going to make me better with my numbers.
Have they made an offer to him yet? Or is it just...
assume so. Yeah, I mean, historically, they put it on the table. This is your worth. Do you want it or don't you? Maybe we could wiggle a little bit left and right. And it's probably way less than what he thinks he's going to need to get. I don't know this for a fact, but historically that's what they've done.
Well, the quarterbacks obviously want him on the field. Everyone does. Colin, the quarterback situation was very interesting this week because Mason Rudolph had better numbers than everybody else, if you're keeping track, which some people do. Mitch Trubisky's getting the lion's share of the number ones. Kenny Pickett's not getting much. Is that the way it's going to continue?
Well, I don't know if it is or not, but if Mike Tomlin told the media before camp and as camp was set to begin that it's a marathon, not a sprint, then I'd be woe to kind of crown Mason Rudolph at this point. Also, Mason Rudolph can't win this quarterback job. He can't.
Right. He does.
I don't care. Listen, I don't care if Mason Rudolph goes into the last preseason game and he is the leader in the clubhouse, and he goes 17 for 17 with 3 touchdowns. They got to call him in and say, listen, that was great and all, but we've seen what you could do in the regular season. It's not enough. Like, there's no way Mason Rudolph can be the starter of this football
I would expect
team in week one. It can't. It can't happen.
I even asked him, when did he talk to us? Wednesday? Whatever day it was, he stopped by and talked to us. I mean, he should be ahead of these guys. He's been with Matt Canada for 3 years. So, I mean, this is I sort of expect this from him. And Colin's right. I mean, if he goes 17 for 17 for 290 yards and 3 touchdowns, all that means is the phone rings the next morning, and what was a 5th-round pick for Mason Rudolph becomes a third round pick. So, I mean, you're right. There's no God bless him. I mean, he is putting in the work, and I think he's a good dude. But yeah, Colin's right.
Let's
he
play
can't
a
win
little
this.
devil's advocate here, though. Mike Tomlin likes to preach, giving everybody the same opportunity, right? You know, opportunity. If you win this battle, you're gonna play all these undrafted guys. What does it do to the locker room if Mason Rudolph is so much more ahead than anybody else? Then they don't play him. Maybe you lose this guy, saying, "What are you doing here?" But in the end, I think it's going to all come down to is if Mitch loses the job, then they can slide Mason up. I think Kenny's just too far.
If Mason had the room, they wouldn't have drafted Kenny or signed Mitch. I mean, let's be honest.
What if you're sitting out and Mason is just a late bloomer and
he
a
could
start?
be.
Well, we just didn't draft you, so we got to get rid of you.
Didn't you watch the games he played in?
He didn't play in that many.
He played in enough to know that what I saw was that he wasn't good enough to be a starting NFL quarterback. He just wasn't. Well, what more do you need to see? I saw a couple things from Mason Rudolph. I saw him get his face mask screwed off, and they tried to drive him to AGH, and the cart didn't work. I saw him get hit in the face with his own face mask, and I saw him, or with his own helmet, football helmet, and I saw him when he played in games just not be good enough. Like, what part did you see where you say, I'd rather take my chances with him or with Mitch Trubisky?
Because I think he's getting an opportunity right now. That second
He
year.
had an opportunity, and a duck hunter beat him out.
Wait, the second year you're talking about, this is the guy that didn't take a snap his rookie year, didn't have a quarterback coach, didn't have an offensive coordinator to pay attention to him, and he's supposed to be a first-round grade. Then 6 quarters in, they're like, hey, Mason, here you go, take over. It's definitely going to be a building process for him. Then all of a sudden he played well against Cleveland, right? Last game, Cleveland needed to get in. And against Detroit.
And there is such a thing as a late bloomer,
knew
by the way.
8 hours before he was going to play that he was going to play. I can sit here and argue that they didn't give him a good chance.
I saw a guy with the worst offensive coordinator and the worst head coach maybe in history in Chicago take a team that had no business being okay, and they were pretty good, and a kicker that stunk screwed it up for him, and that's Mitch Trubisky.
All right, we got to go to a break on that note. We talked about Deontay Johnson. There's another guy who needs a contract, Chris Boswell. Will he get it? Should he get it? How much should it be? We'll get into that. And Deshaun Watson is going to have his day tomorrow. How many games will he miss, if any? We'll talk about it next right here on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown.
#1 Cochran Sports Showdown is brought to you by #1 Cochran. Go one better.